The 75th anniversary summit of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, is underway in Washington. From Biden's age, his re-election bid, to bolstering support for Ukraine, there are several concerns that will dominate the agenda and the discussions. To discuss this, we now have with us Professor David Dunn from the University of Birmingham. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Sir, Biden has pledged more support for Ukraine and says that the United States and its allies have pledged to deliver 5 additional air defense systems, including Patriot missile batteries and components. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, many people would say, why is it taking so long for those things to be delivered? The criticism of the Biden administration is that despite all the rhetoric, it's been slow on both giving defensive and offensive weapons, and has limited the ability of Ukraine to use some of those weapons to attack forces in Russia. So while this will be a welcome announcement at the summit, as far as Ukraine is concerned, they will be frustrated that it's taken so long, and indeed that there is so little in terms of the American aid coming forward.
Right, sir. As I mentioned earlier as well, there have been questions surrounding President Joe Biden's age and his competency. How will the outcome of the U.S. election impact the alliance? We know that Donald Trump in the past has hinted at withdrawing the United States from NATO.
So there's two aspects of this. There's a question as to whether Joe Biden will be the Democratic Party candidate going forward after his disastrous appearance in the presidential election debate. There are still many in his party who look at the opinion polls after that debate and think that their party cannot win with Biden as president. But Biden is insisting that he is the best person to beat Trump, and therefore is hanging on. If the opinion polls continue as they are, Biden will lose the election to Donald Trump. If Donald Trump wins the election, he has always been someone who has been very skeptical at any sort of institutional engagement of the United States. He is very much an America firster. He doesn't believe in giving commitments to other nations, including to long-standing allies like in NATO. He has talked and hinted at the possibility of withdrawing from NATO in absolute terms. But more than that, actually, he doesn't need to withdraw from NATO for America's commitment to be weakened to NATO. Because if he indicates that he wouldn't come to the defense of allies, then he would effectively be signaling to opponents of NATO that they could do, in his words, whatever the hell they liked. With regard to Ukraine, he again has indicated he wants to bring that war to an end very quickly, and many people suspect that that would be to impose on Ukraine a peace deal whereby it lost more than 20% of its territory that Russia has illegally occupied since the invasion, first in 1914 of Crimea, and secondly of the Donbass area in the last 2 years.
Right, sir. Now, in the lead up to the summit as well, Russia was cornered at the United Nations Security Council following the reports of strikes on a children's hospital in Kyiv. How do you assess NATO's role in easing tensions in dealing with the multiple global crises, of course, as well as the Russia-Ukraine crisis?
Well, NATO has also committed to being a force for good in the Indo-Pacific area, and talked about supporting America in its role in that area. That was a thing which Donald Trump was very keen on when he was president. And so there is an expansion of the NATO involvement, although not a military commitment, to the wider world. And of course, the other aspect of that is there is still a promise on the table at some point to allow Ukraine and Georgia to join NATO in the future. But there's no prospect of that being recognized or realized in the immediate period, because obviously of the hostilities going on, you wouldn't want to admit someone who's in the middle of a war, because to do so would be an immediate commitment to enter that war, and there's no one suggesting that that would be the case.
All right. Well, Professor Dunn, thank you so much for joining us on WION World as One with your insights on this.
Always a pleasure.
For latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.